Welcome to ExcelerWorks and another video related to Microsoft Excel. It is about sum function, SUMIF function, subtotal function, and aggregate function. So let's get to easy learning. The sum function makes total of a fact column regardless of any criteria. So it makes total of a fact column or some references without any criteria. So it is a direct function. How we do it, we say equals sum, the syntax is sum, parentheses start, and we give it some range, parentheses closed, and enter. And this will sum all the values inside this fact table. Now, what is a fact table? Fact table is the fact column or table, whatever you call it, is a column or table that contains the values that can be aggregated. What is aggregation? Aggregation means that those values can be added, subtracted, divided, multiplied, etc., etc. Dimension column contains the criteria or information regarding those facts. Now, for this fact, the dimension is apple, and it is also criteria. For this fact, this criteria is banana, and also it is a dimension. So simple sum is a function that simply sums a column or a range or a reference regardless of any criteria. Also, the shortcut to is, though I don't like shortcuts, but it is very widely used, Alt equals, and it will take the whole range. Enter. So this is the good old simple sum. Now let's move on to SUMIFS. SUMIFS, if you see, there is ifs next to sum. So if is a logical statement. It contains a lot of criteria, 1, 2, 3, or infinity, but here multiple criteria, let's say. So as I explained to you, what are criterias? Criterias are stored in dimension columns, and if we have to sum a fact column, it will give us the facility to add some criteria. That's why it is called SUMIFS. Before, when it was only SUMIF, it was only available for one criteria. But now we have SUMIFS, it is available for multiple criteria. So let's do it. Equals SUMIFS, parentheses start. We will give the sum range, and then we will give the first criteria's range. This is category, our first mention column, and it has criterions like fruit, vegetables, meat, vegetables, and mixed criterias. And we can type here meat as a criteria and close the parentheses, and it will give us the sum of meat. Let's check. So meat is here 15, here is meat 21, here is meat 20, and it makes $56. So we are correct. Now, as we typed meat in quotation marks, I can also give a reference. I can give a reference of this cell and type meat in here. So if I do that and type meat, make it more flexible. Let's say I type fruit in here. So I can get total of fruit here on my choice of entry. Let's try vegetables. Vegetables. My spellings are very bad. Vegetable. If we type vegetable, $32.75. Let's double check. Vegetable, vegetable, and vegetable. So it is correct, $32.75. Now let's move on to multiple referencing. Multiple referencing has a drawback that if you make some calculation related to multiple referencing, unless you enter all the references, it will not calculate, but there is a trick to it. SUMIFS, give the range of sum, comma, for criteria is category, and we give this cell as first criteria reference, comma, then second criteria reference, actually range of the criteria, So product is the second range, and we give this reference just below the product as criteria reference 2. Close parentheses and enter. We find 3250, but you will see that I'm using a wildcard here instead of entering any value. If I delete this wildcard, this multiple referencing will not work because I haven't entered any second criteria. And if I come to fruit, how many apple? Total is 5. Good. So let's try meat. There is no apple in meat, so beef. How many beef we got? 1. It's $20. So this is how you put SUMIF with single criteria and multiple criteria, and how you use multiple criteria statements and referencing and trick them to give you single criteria results. The subtotal. Subtotal function is useful when you want to calculate a subtotal for a range of data that has been filtered. So let's apply some filters here. You select these headers, data, filters. Let's say you want to select only stationery. So when you select stationery, the subtotal formula is giving you total of only the stationery, while normal sum formula, if you see here, is still giving you the total of all the fact column and all the figures included in this fact column. So subtotal is very handy when you are you need to filter a data according to any criteria or any dimension, and you want to see the total of that very dimension only. To apply this formula, equals subtotal, and you will see a drop down box, and it's giving 1 as average, 2 as count, 3 as a count A, 4 as max, and many other functions and scenarios it is giving you with different numbers. So what we need at the moment is sum. So it is 9. When we select the 9, give it comma and select the range array and close the parentheses and enter. Now if you filter again, electronics, and it will give you 425. For office supplies, it will give you 130, and for stationery it will give you 73.5. But if you used only simple sum, it will give you total of all items included in this table. So this is the usability, a usefulness of the subtotal. Now let's move on to aggregate. Aggregate is very interesting formula again. The aggregate function is a versatile function that can perform many different calculations, including sum, average, count, max, min, and can ignore errors and hidden rows. Errors and hidden rows can be ignored with this formula. How good is that? So let's say we have a very interesting data like this. We have an office. We have Jasmine, Alice, Fiona, Holly, Ivan, Bob, Ethan, Charlie, with their respective genders in an office, and we have their salaries. Quite nice salaries, by the way. So we are having a subtotal here for these salaries based on their gender. So female salary subtotal is, and it was male here. Let me change it. Male subtotal is 273. So aggregate, it is same as subtotal but with a twist. Is equal to aggregate. Base function is 9, comma. Now we'll see another drop down list which starts from 0, and it gives us ignorance of many things separately and combined. So 0 is ignore nested subtotals and aggregate functions. Okay, that's useful. Number 1 is ignore hidden rows and subtotals and aggregate functions. Also useful. Number 2, ignore values, error values, nested subtotals, and aggregate functions. Very good. Number 3 is ignore hidden rows. Very useful. Error values, nested subtotals, and aggregate functions. And then from there on, it is ignore nothing, ignore hidden rows only, ignore error values, ignore hidden rows and error values. So different combinations of ignorance. So what I like in this is number 3, which is ignore hidden rows, error values, and nested subtotals and aggregates. Now I don't have to worry about giving a range. I will just select all range because I have nested subtotals, and I will close the parentheses and enter. Now if you see equals this plus this is actually $493,000, and it has ignored these two subtotals. And let's see if it ignores the hidden rows. Let me filter the data. Let's filter from names. I will filter Alice, Fiona, Ivan, and Bob. Yeah, it's cool. Subtotal is there already, and it's giving correct amount for female and the males. It is correct. And if we sum these two, as it is already selected, we have the correct figure. So it is a very useful function, very common function. Mostly it is used by accountants, but you can also use it in situations of purchase, procurement, summaries, or aggregation of lists, or a lot of stuff. So this is the simple explanation for aggregate, subtotal, SUMIFS, and sum function. I hope it was understandable and you liked the video. Do comment and like and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next video.